9 a.m. Eastern Standard Time to 11 a.m. Eastern Standard Time for 2 hours of live stream writing accountability, followed by our half-hour Max's Share What You Did wrap-up chat. So the way this live stream works, in case you are new, is that you can keep the stream open in a separate window, separate tab, as background noise, as though we were in a digital shared workspace. And during the first 2 hours, you work on your thing while I work on my thing. And during those 2 hours, you are strongly encouraged to go into the chat and, for accountability purposes, because this is an accountability partnership, log what it is that you are working on and what tasks you're getting done, so that it's just in there. It's like, this is the thing I'm working on. This is what I'm working on. And then as you're getting things done, saying, I got this thing done, I got this thing done, I got this thing done, I get this. Use it, right? For my part, I'm going to be screen sharing my to-do list, can-do list, plus as I get things done, I'll be putting them in the brief summary area to log my own items. And so whether you're reading along, writing along, you're going to be able to see what it is I'm working on. But also at the wrap-up chat at 11, I'm going to come in, give a brief summary of what all I got done, then respond to all comments and questions on YouTube. So whether you're reading along or writing along, you can put things into the chat, not only to log what it is you're working on and getting done, but also comments and questions about your projects, my projects, and the creative process in general. And I strongly encourage you to do that so that we have things to discuss during the wrap-up chat, because the more we can talk about what it is we're working on and how it is we're working on it, the more we can iterate on that how, and little by little, day by day, improve our storytelling, whether it's the stories that we tell ourselves, the stories that we're telling each other, or the stories that we're telling collectively as a society. And hopefully, with those little daily attempts, build a better world through better storytelling, which is what I am all about in every project that I create. That is the through line, the connecting thread. And I love having those discussions with you. And also all the topics discussed will become a part of the queue that I have for the new podcast that I'm going to be making. That way we have a sort of resource library of all the things that we've discussed regarding the creative process. Plus there will be other things discussed besides the creative process, because things come up that affect the creative process. Just gonna get myself all squared away here and then get started on my side of the writing. And I will talk to you at 11. As you can see, whether you're reading along, writing along, I keep things in a tabbed window, which means I'm not going to be able to see the chat while I write. That's by design, because I have OCD. And if I can see the chat, then I am only concerned with the chat and I am not getting any writing done, which is not helping me with my small daily attempts to build a better world through better storytelling. I can tell you that much. All right, let's go. Why is it indented like that? It should not be fucking indented. No. Edit again. Three circles and a bunch of cleats. That's a great line. That's a great line. It's like I'm a writer or something. What? Oh, good. The image posted the way I wanted it. Fantastic. I just have to have the image at the top. What? Okay. Yeah, Twitter. You mess with that banner.
nothing's broken, everything's fine.
something was misprinted. What the? Rosie. Let me see. Oh God, I hate you little. Oh, I did do it right. Ha! and it's 11 a.m. All right, so it being 11 a.m. means it is time for the wrap-up chat, which is going to begin with a brief summary of what all I got done, with a little bit of the how, a little bit of the why, and then I'm going to respond to all comments and all questions on YouTube and Twitch. So if you happened to have been writing along during the 2 hours of accountability practice, now is a great time, if you haven't already, to go into the chat on YouTube or Twitch. I do have them open as separate tabs, so it is going to, collect what it is you write into the chats. But go ahead, and if you haven't logged it already, log what it is that you were working on and log what it is that you got done. Just let me know. And then whether you were reading along, writing along, all comments and questions on YouTube or Twitch about, now is also a great time to put in any comment or question you have, whether you're reading along or writing along, about any comment or question about your creative projects, my creative projects, and the creative process in general, so that we can talk not just about what it is that we're doing, but how it is we're doing it, so we can iterate and improve on it. So go ahead and log things into the chat now. Log things into the chat that you were working on, that you got done, and any comments or questions that you have about your projects, my projects, or the creative process in general. Now is a great time to get started on putting those things in the chat if you weren't doing it already. All right, so brief summary first. Today I started with my daily blog post like I always do, and actually I went back into a post from before I started blogging on my Better Storytelling site and was just blogging on Medium. And I took the creative circles of trust and I republished that, deleted the original article that was on Medium, and posted it to my official site. So it also cross-posted back onto Medium. And it's just something that I've been thinking of a lot. I'm going to make it into a pamphlet like this and make it just available to people, because it can be, there are a lot of times that we're working on a creative thing by ourselves or with other people, or are just asking for a word of advice in some way or another, or just a word of input, not for direction, not for instructions, not for any kind of assigned homework on what to do next, just input. What do you think? Just give me your opinion, kind of a thing. And we do this all the time in our creative work without having any sort of contract with the people that we're asking these things of. And not everything requires a contract, but it is important to know where you stand with people. And the blog post was inspired by a conversation I overheard as somebody was trying to explain to someone else why, after this someone else had been asked to do a particular thing and messed up and made an error, why the proper creator, and not the helper, why the creator felt it necessary to start the whole thing from scratch rather than just create a workaround in that step. And the person who had helped and then made a mistake, and so was therefore demoted to the category of everyone else, where you're not even in any of the circles of trust at this point. It's like, you screwed up, you've been voted off the island. It's really, the creator has demoted you right off the island. And this person was then like trying to come back, like, just work around it, basically trying to tell the creator how to do their project, which it wasn't their place to do at any point. They had been asked to do a particular task. They did not deliver on that task. The creator then looked and decided for themselves, do I work around this? And just, do I work around this? Or do I do it over again and just do that step myself? And if the mistake happens, it's my mistake and it's my fingerprint on the work rather than someone else's mistake and someone else's influence on my work. And this creator chose the latter, but they didn't have that understanding of where they stood with one another. I didn't know them. I still don't know them well enough to have like butted into the conversation at all. Though I did butt in to ask a clarifying question of the person who had helped after the person who had created had left the room in frustration to just go collect themselves for a moment. And the helper just kept reiterating, like, just do it this way, just do it this way. I said, but are you the one in charge of what this person decides to do with their creative work? And the helper said, no, but this is what everyone else does. And to which I responded, are they the kind of person who usually does what everyone else does? And then there were some other clarifying things said that I feel like would give away who was speaking. In the weird, bizarro off chance that any of the people involved in that conversation know this stream exists and are watching it. But I highly doubt that at this point. But it is just important to know where you stand, what your place is with regards to a creative project. And it's just a good cheat sheet kind of information to have. So the blog post is a very bare bones cheat sheet thing. I am going to create a little pamphlet for it with a sort of tear off example mini contract for letting someone know, hey, I am the creator of this. You are collaborator, helper. Here's you are a helper. Here's specifically what I want. This is all you get to contribute to the project. If it messes up in some way, the contract is nulled, and you have to tell me and then step away from the project. Is basically what I'm gonna do in that pamphlet. So, and then make it available for people. Then I queued up my next Buffer posting, which 10 days from now on Buffer is going to post to Twitter, Facebook, and LinkedIn a link to my book Lying to Children, which is a collection of humorous poems that I wrote as part of a Kickstarter project, well, as the crux of a Kickstarter project by the same name. And each poem is inspired by a different lie that some adult has told to some child at some point. And I wrote a poem for every dollar contributed, or if you couldn't think of any lies, you could give me as many dollars as you liked, and then I would, instead of giving you a new poem for each dollar, if you couldn't think up enough lies, the remaining dollars, I would give you a poem that had already been written. And I had these 10 or so poems already in the queue that were just for my own family, because we lied to the grown-ups in my family lied to the children in my family all the friggin' time. And one lie was tricky. One poem was very tricky for me to write, because the person who requested the poem had their own agenda. I was doing something light and something fun, and these are just the things that we're saying to kids that are just really specific to like different family scenarios, to keep a kid in line or to just keep them quiet until it's lunchtime or whatever. And this guy did not quite understand that this was supposed to be light and this was supposed to be fun. And he was like, oh, I went to Catholic school and like everything they said was a lie. Like, oh, I'm a devout Catholic. I don't believe that at all. And it's like, I just want you to write about that. And I'm like, and I responded to him. I was like, all right, so we have a difference of opinion here. I am going to write you a poem. I'm going to do it my way. I'm going to write about a sort of hyperbolic situation, because I am a devout Catholic, and I 100% respect your opinion, your feeling that you were lied to at Catholic school. But I am going to put my own spin on what you said, because the point of this project is for it to be light is for it to be fun, is supposed to be more that family friendly. Oh my God, I can't believe my parents used to tell me this and I believed it. Like they were just messing with me, kind of a thing. And what you have requested does not quite fit in with that, so I'm going to try to make it fit in with that. And what I ended up doing was I took the 10 commandments and I called them the Nun Commandments. And I rewrote each one in the most hyperbolic way possible about, like, don't do this or this thing will happen. So it was a series of 10 couplets, a couplet for each of the commandments. And so I would rephrase the commandment in order to get the couplets to rhyme. And then I would come up with some ridiculous, hyperbolic, sometimes hell mention inclusive punishment, like, or consequence to if you do this thing. And that was what I did. And so I wrote that poem for him, and he wrote he gave a number of dollars, and so he's like, I just want the one poem. He had said that he wanted the one poem, and then the rest, like, he would like to see other poems that I was typewriting on my typewriter and individually to send out to people physically. So you'd be getting these poems physically in the mail, and then I collected them into the book. And so I wrote him that note. I gave him the poem. I gave him some other poems from my own family, and I did not hear back from him how he felt about my handling of his prompt. But it was interesting, and it still feels like it sticks out to me in the collection because it is the only poem that references religion, and like everything else is so benign. The only other poem there are 2 poems that get dark beyond the Nun Commandments, and those 2 are The Whiner Monster and Method Acting. Method Acting is a couplet that goes, for his role in Forrest Gump, he cut each leg down to a stump. Which is something my uncle told my cousin, and which she and she's 5 months older than me, and it was only about a year or 2 before Lying to Children, the Kickstarter project, happened, and I was nearing the end of my college education when I did that project. I was near graduation. It was like 2011, and it was only about a year or 2 before that she found out Gary Sinise had not, in fact, cut off his legs for his role in Forrest Gump. That was just really, really good. That was just really, really good special effects. So, anywho, so the queue up, the buffer posting was about Lying to Children, which I really liked that project. It was a lot of fun to do. Then I rotated journaling pages. I print my own loose leaf grid paper for my bullet journaling. And so I was just taking out pages that had already been filled in and filing them away with other previous months of bullet journaling. I have been bullet journaling since December of, 2015? Whoa, it's been over 2 years. It'll be 2.5 years this month. Or no, it's been 2 years, 6 months, and 2 days. So we've hit the 2.5 month already, because it was December 10th, 2015 that I started. 2.5 years. That's the longest I've used any productivity tool. Any productivity tool
ever.
I'm very happy about that. And printing my own pages has been enormously helpful to make sure that that's kept happening, because I bought 3 notebooks for my journaling when I first started, which are also filed among my papers. And it's just much less expensive to just buy printer paper and buy ink like I'm normally buying and just print it myself. And then I worked on my Hans Christian Andersen article. I finished taking my notes on the things that he had to say about the stories that he wrote and the things that he saw and experienced and heard, which contributed to the writing of those stories. I finished my notes on that, and so now I'm going through basically my writing history and writing my own notes on where my head was at, things that I was focusing on at the time that I wrote those things. Because who you are and what you're going through is going to creep into the text of what you're writing. So it's going to creep in, and it's good to be aware of those things, and it's part of the reason, you know, we write so many critical essays and articles and things about writers and their work, because we're trying to get at some gem, some seed of truth. We're trying to read each other's minds in a way that's just not possible, and it's really fascinating. So anywho, I got work done on my Hans Christian Andersen article, and I got a good chunk of work done, because with the whole just reposting, slightly editing and reposting the Creative Trust Circle blog post, it helps save time, and it's a nice quick one, and it's a nice visual reminder in my brain to be better about writing those shorter, quicker articles, to be a thing that just like keeps the muscle memory of writing going without taking up all my morning writing time, which I need for all the projects. I need as much of these 2 hours as I can get each morning. And it's a blog. Blogs are supposed to have shorter posts, right? Right. So now that that's my brief summary, it is time to respond to all comments and questions on YouTube. Nothing here. That is pretty standard. Most stream viewers are here on Twitch, and AxiBoost says hi, to which I say, hello, AxiBoost. Thank you very much for joining me and for saying hi if you are still watching. For anyone who is new and still watching, I don't look at the chats till it's time for the wrap-up chat portion, where we are now. The first 2 hours are all spent on writing accountability, and the last half hour max-ish time, it's scheduled to be half hour max. Sometimes we go over, sometimes we go over. Today is looking like an under day since there's nothing in the chat. And yeah, so it's 2 hours of writing. You can use the chat to log what it is that you're working on. So example, I'll say that I'm working on morning writing, which is just the name of the stream. And then an example task would be, you know, write daily blog posts. Ancient Frostilicus, hi, can't actually see what you're working on in the stream. So could you be more specific in terms of saying that you can't see what I'm working on? Is your screen black, or this? All right, so I have, because on my end, the stream is coming through. If the stream isn't coming through on your end, you're going to want to hit the little settings cogwheel on the video and do report playback issue and select the specific problem that you're having. Ancient Frustilicus says, sorry, I mean the screen is so small so the text is unreadable on my display on a tablet. Okay, so that, for my own writing purposes, I like to be able to see as much of the words as possible so that I can very easily read back, and I'm not doing all of this scroll up, scroll down, trying to read something that is a larger text. I do like to keep it just as a standard font size for my own purposes. I do understand why that can be trickier if you're reading along rather than writing along, which is why I do strongly encourage that you use the 2 hours that the interaction with the chat isn't happening to get writing done. So, and I am going to make a note here. That text being small and unreadable for viewers, just having that as a note to myself, because I do make notes of everything we discuss in the live chat at the end of each video, at the end of each morning writing session. I make notes of those things so that I can have them as podcast topics. I'm working on creating a podcast that will act as a sort of resource library for the various things about the creative process and the things that we're working on during our morning writings. I'm working on a podcast as a resource library so that it's more easily searchable than trying to go through hundreds of videos that are 2 hours long, trying to make sure that you're queuing up to where the wrap-up chat happens, because all these videos are archived on my YouTube page. And but yeah, everything is going to be small and unreadable on a lot of screens, because everything on my end is set up to be, it's optimized for my use. I'm screen sharing not as much so that you can read it, though if you can, awesome, but I'm more sharing my screen because otherwise, for the 2 hours, what happens is you're staring at my face the whole time, and I'm just sitting here looking at my screen, which was what was going on when I first started live streaming my morning writing, and I wasn't using OBS, and I was only on YouTube. And I'd just be sitting there staring at the screen, and nobody knew what was going on. I didn't even have this border, which, you know, in this version and in this version, it has the notes around the edges letting you know that, you know, there's the writing and then there's the chat. And it gives you all that information in the border, but that wasn't something that I was proactive. That wasn't always part of how I do my screen share. It was originally that it was just my face, and then that was bothering me. And then when I was introduced to OBS by someone who was watching the YouTube video, the YouTube stream, and was telling me how I could simultaneously broadcast to Twitch, they were telling me about this, and then I got the OBS app onto my computer, got it all squared away, and then figured out how to set up the border and how to set up the screen sharing, plus being able to share screen share plus having my face so that you could see that I'm in the chair, and that I'm thinking or I'm snacking, or, you know, you can see me and know why typing isn't happening, and sharing my screen so that you can see I am working on something. I'm not wasting my time with whatchamacallit, click holes and all of the rest. So that's more what the screen sharing is about. It's more about the accountability of, you see, I'm working, this is work that's happening. My butt is in the chair, you can tell because there's a camera on me, and I'm doing the work that I said I was going to do. I'm working on my writing. I'm working on the business of being a writer. And you can see that because you might not be able to read it, but you can see it because here are my notes, and here are my can-do lists, and here are the tags that I use on YouTube, and here are, you know, my project can-do list. This is more my daily can-do list, and these are all the topics that we've discussed in the past, which actually, sorry, I needed to do that. I've actually put into their own spreadsheet, a different document, so now I can have like this as a clean queue to be adding posts, to be adding speaking topics, like the things that creep into the text and why the text on the screen is small or unreadable for you. Like, these are things that I can now copy paste into this collected section. And the screen sharing is about accountability. It's not as much about you reading what it is that I'm writing, which is why on the screen above my head right now, you can see above my head the link better-storytelling.com, which is my website. And that's where you can find links to all of my projects, and you can find links, and you can read my writing over there. But what you see here on the screen right now in terms of my face and in terms of the work that I'm doing, that's for accountability purposes. I'm in the chair and work is happening. So that's what that is about. It's not as much about you being able to read the work, because I am here to be accountable to you, and hopefully if you find it valuable, you can use the chat to share in that accountability and say, you know what, I'm going to get writing done too. I'm going to get writing done, or sculpting done, or painting done, whatever. I'm going to just have this window open and be good. Ancient Frostilicus says, your stream seems like a good idea. I'm glad you think it's a good idea. It's definitely a good idea on my end, because I have OCD and it's been a huge problem in terms of getting things done over the years, getting homework done in particular. And so that accountability of just somebody somewhere might be looking, and I need to be in the chair for that. Someone somewhere might be looking, and I need to be working in case they are. It's just that little bit of a nudge. It's not a huge amount of pressure. It's just, I said that I was going to get writing done on this day at this time, and I did get writing done. I was in the chair and I was doing the work. And I very much encourage you to come back in future days. It does look like that really is, it's looking like it's a good time to do the proper wrap, and I do encourage you to come back in the future and use the accountability practice. Log into the chat the things that you want to work on. Log into the chat the things that you're getting done, the word counts that you're getting done, the little details that you're doing in a painting or a sculpture or whatever it happens to be, and let me know whether you're reading along, well, attempting to read along, or whether you're writing along, creating along. Let me know, in addition to logging accountability-wise into the chat, also logging any comments or questions you have about the creative process, your projects, my projects, the creative process in general. Because the more we can talk about what it is we're working on and how it is we're working on it, the more we can iterate on that and do a little better and a little better each day. And it's through those small daily attempts at improving the stories that we tell, whether it's the stories we tell ourselves, the stories we're telling each other, or the stories that we're telling together as a collective, as a community, a family, a society. It's by improving all of those stories, both the telling and the living, improving all of that, that we can, little by little, I believe, build a better world through better storytelling. And I strongly encourage you to come back to the stream and engage in that journey with me a little bit more and a little bit more every day. Thank you very much for joining me today, and I look forward to seeing you tomorrow. Good journey, my friends.